Lonesome Pine Specials. This edition features the great Irish-American musicians Mick Moloney, Robbie O'Connell, and Jimmy Keane, with special guests Eileen Ivers and champion step dancer Donny Golden, in a feast of jigs, reels, step dances, ballads, and stories on the stage of the Lonesome Pine Specials.
all the way there from Brooklyn. They call him the Baryshnikov of Bay Ridge, and now you know why. On my right, Robbie O'Connell from Carrick-on-Surin, County Waterford, Tipperary border, currently living in Massachusetts. I'm Mick Moloney from Limerick, which is the epicenter of Celtic culture, as you all know. I'm living in Philadelphia currently. On my left here, the Queen of the Bronx herself on fiddle, Eileen Ivers. And then on the far left, he was born in London through no fault of his own. Grew up in Chicago, the son of Gaelic-speaking parents, Jimmy Keane and piano accordion. And it's great to be back here, the Lonesome Pine Special. I always like coming to Louisville, lots of friends here, and some we hope that we haven't met yet. I'd like to sing a song about an early Irish voyager to the New World, back in the 6th century, none other than the intrepid St. Brendan himself. And you know, nobody believed him much in Ireland when he went to America and came back and told all the great tales about life over here then, because nobody believes anybody in Ireland who lays claim to anything important while they're still alive. You know, but he obliged everyone and died eventually, and then they believed him. They spread all sorts of stories and legends about him, and they were part of our folklore for many hundreds of years. But no song at all about St. Brendan until a man called Jimmy Driftwood in Arkansas, the fellow who wrote the Tennessee Stud and the Battle of New Orleans. He read a story about an early, incredible voyage of St. Brendan, much akin to the voyages of Sinbad the Sailor, and he thought he'd write a song about the Bowl St. Brendan. So we have it, and it's got a chorus if you feel like singing along with it. And the chorus goes, we sail for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sail for St. Brendan's fair isle. When I was a lad on the Emerald Isle, I heard many stories, both lovely and wild, about the great dragons and monsters that be, that swallow the ships when they sail on the sea. Though I was an artist with canvas and paints, I sailed with St. Brendan and his jolly saints. We told the good people goodbye for a while. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle. We'd been on the ocean for 94 days. We came to a spot where the sea was ablaze. Those demons from Hades were dancing with glee and burning the sailors alive on the sea. Then St. Brendan walked on the blistering waves, and he threw all the demons right back to their caves. And all of the saints wore a heavenly smile. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle. One night, while the brethren were lying asleep, a great dragon came up from under the deep. He thundered and lightened and made a great din. He awakened St. Brendan and all of his men. The dragon came on with his mouth open wide. We threw in the cross and the great dragon died. We skinned him and cooked him and feasted a while. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle. To that beautiful land, we all went ashore and we walked on the sands. We took our long bows and we killed a zaboo. We roasted it up and had hot barbecue. And after a while we were singing a song. We noticed the island was moving along. We ate and we drank and we rode in high style. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle. Now Brendan says, boys, this is much to my wish. We ride on the back of the world's biggest fish. Hold fast to the rope that is pulling the ship. We'll need it someday if this fish takes a dip. We sail every ocean, we sail every sea. We sail every spot that a sailor could be. In 44 days we sailed 10 million miles. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle, fair isle. We sailed for St. Brendan's fair isle.
There are many kinds of Irish music and there are many kinds of Irish dance in America, and all of them in a way are the product of different waves of Irish migration to the New World over the past couple of hundred years. And the migration really has been very, very considerable. It's estimated that in the 19th century alone, over 10 million Irish came from different parts of the country to America, mostly driven out by the dreadful conditions of poverty and in the middle of the century famine that prevailed in Ireland. And they all brought with them different aspects of the native culture, and of course those aspects varied from time to time. And songs from different parts of Ireland, tunes from different parts of Ireland, dances from different parts of Ireland got brought here to America. In earlier years, the migrations from different parts of the country, particularly the northern part, had brought music that was eventually to evolve into the music we now know as Appalachian old-time music. But in the 19th century, the songs, the music, the dances were carried mostly to the big cities where the Irish settled, and they've been really around there ever since, changing just about as much as the music has changed back in Ireland and getting regenerated by different waves of migration over the years.
Well, a few years ago, we came across a fairly recently written song by a man called Peter Jones, who lives down around Washington, D.C. And he had come across a number of old letters that had been passed down in his family, went back to the last century. And there were letters that were sent from a family in Ireland to members of the same family here in America. And they span a number of years in the last century, which was a very sad time in Irish history. You know, you had the potato famine starting in the 1840s and subsequent famines for the next few decades. And they estimate about 12 million people left Ireland in those days and headed off to America. The present day population of Ireland is only around 4 million, gives you an idea of what was involved. But when they left in those days, they very, very rarely made it back home again. Occasionally a lucky one did. But the family in Ireland lived in a little place called Kilkelly in County Mayo. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1860, my dear and loving son John. Your good friend, the schoolmaster, Pat McNamara, so good as to write these words down. Your brothers have all gone to find work in England. The house is so empty and sad. Crop of potatoes is sorely infected, a third to a half of them bad. And your sister Bridget and Patrick O'Donnell are going to be married in June. Your mother says not to work on the railroad, and be sure to come on home soon. Ireland, 1870, my dear and loving son John. Hello to your missus and to your 4 children, and may they grow healthy and strong. Michael has got in a wee bit of trouble, I suppose that he never will learn. Because of the dampness there's no turf to speak of, and now we have nothing to burn. And Bridget is happy you named a child for her, although she's got 6 of her own. You say you found work, but you don't say what kind, or when you will be coming home. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1880, dear Michael and John, my sons. I'm sorry to give you the very sad news, that your dear old mother has gone. We buried her down at the church in Kilkelly. Your brothers and Bridget were there. You don't have to worry, she died very quickly. Remember her in your prayers. And it's so good to hear that Michael's returning. With money he's sure to buy land. For the crop has been poor and the people are selling at any price that they can. Kilkelly, Ireland, 18 and 90, my dear and loving son John. I suppose that I must be close on 80. It's 30 years since you've gone. Because of all of the money you sent me, I'm still living out on my own. Michael has built himself a fine house, and Bridget's daughters are grown. And thank you for sending your family picture. They're lovely young women and men. You say that you might even come for a visit. What joy to see you again. Kilkelly, Ireland, 18 and 92, my dear brother John. I'm sorry I didn't write sooner to tell you that Father passed on. He was living with Bridget, she says he was cheerful and healthy right down to the end. I should have seen him playing with the grandchildren of Pat McNamara, your friend. And we buried him alongside of Mother down at the Kilkelly churchyard. He was a strong and a feisty old man, considering his life was so hard. And it's funny the way that he talked about you. He talked about you all the time. Oh, why don't you come back home for a visit? Or why don't you come home again?
a song in the Gaelic language now, and the Gaelic language is still spoken as a first language in certain parts of Ireland known as Gaeltachtaí, and they're found in the western seaboard of Ireland for the most part, in the counties of Kerry and the counties of Galway and Donegal. And this song is from the Gaeltacht of Ranafirst de Gwedoir, up in one of the most starkly beautiful parts of the whole of Ireland, up in the northwestern part of the country. A very bleak, beautiful place that's been very hard hit by emigration over the last century and a half. And there's a very proud repository of song and story and dance up there that's still the repository of the people to this very, very day. And this song comes from the time when matchmaking was the norm in that part of Ireland, and oftentimes what happened was that an older gentleman who just inherited land would get married through the services of a matchmaker, usually to a younger woman. And sometimes the union worked out okay as far as we know, although it's hard to tell, of course. Each case varied, but in this particular case, the woman who's involved in the song, I didn't like her situation one little bit, because she was married to a crotchety old geezer who wouldn't let her out of the house even to go to Mass on Sunday. He was a little bit on the jealous side, you might say. And she lamented her lot, saying, "I will leave this town, Huigimish and Balashaw, because it is dark and ugly, my Táishid of Grana. And agus Rocky me go Connachtive, and I will go to Connacht, Nushir Galaini Alder to Leinster. A night to why me pogum a store is me the foilte, to the place where I will get a kiss from my love and 1,000 welcomes. Shalawan Jaspogus Cadma Fosu and Dalior, a fine dowry of cows and permission to get married to the tailor."
Shade of Grana, agus Rocky me go Connachtive, Nushir Galaini Adra. A night to way me pogo, my store is me the foilte. Shalawan just bogus cad no fosu and all your. Knock me on through a widder. Is me poster an sclavi, not liggin' amach an affrin me la sire nu de downig, gach di an nu tigeliana, is knock nolak gini holiam, snack down a gliana crime, Mariana can walk a logliam, Fuiki me shan palisha mertashe the brana, agus Rocky me go Connachtive, Nushir Galaini Adra. A night to I me pogo, my store is me le foilte. Shalawan just bogus cad ma fosu and all your. Yes, a chushna farige, a tammy fein Moloney, is she a diana of Leondov, o Madin Gotrandona, is a sween nu Ermastorim, a fiach coni kaintliam, is a gwala shiv Mariolo mega hog down of Mailish, freaking nation Balisha Mertashe the Grana, agus Rocky mega Connachtive, Nushir Galaini Adra. A night away me pogo, my store is me le foilte. Shalawan just bogus cad ma fosu and all your. Goslan Galav near a siguri of Minton, Nak through a nactic sherak the mark, but Yokater Winwood querig, on Tanak Yanok Marigalish, a sholo where a shoneonic, freaking mission Balisha Mertashe of Grana, August Rocky Mega Connachtive, Nushir Galaini Adra. A night to aim a pogo, my store is me le foilte. Shalawan just bogus cab no fosu and all your. Fuigi méisian báilise mar tá sé do grána agus Rocky mé go cánach defnú siar go laini adra an night away me pogo ma stories bíle fáilte Shalawan jas bogus cad ma fósu ar an dáliúr
Well, as you might well imagine, we have a lot of drinking songs in Ireland, and there's two distinct types of drinking songs. There's the type that's written the morning after, one to be avoided, I think, and then there's the ones that are written the same night as the stuff is being consumed. And the majority of these songs are about the homemade variety of Irish whiskey. It goes by lots of different names. But in this particular song, it's referred to as the crater, or the stuff, or the drop, or the pure, or probably 100 other things. But this is a wonderful old song in praise of whiskey, or poteen, called Stick to the Crater. Let your quacks and newspapers be cutting their capers about curing the vapors, the scratch and the gout, with their medical potions, their serums and lotions, upholding their notions, they're mighty put out. Who can tell the true physic to all that's pathetic, and pitch to the devil, cram, colic, and spleen? You'll know what they'd think if you take a big drink with your mouth to the brink of a jug of poteen. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh, what botheration, no dose in the nation can give consolation like poteen, me boys. As a child in the cradle, me nurse with her ladle was filling me mouth with the notion of pep. When a drop from the bottle fell into me throttle, I capered and scrambled clean out of her lap. On the floor I lay crawling and screaming and bawling, till me father and mother were called to the fore. All sobbing and sighing, they feared I was dying, but soon found I only was crying for more. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, how they chuckle if babes in their truckle they only could suckle on poteen, me boys. Through my youthful aggression and times of depression, my childhood impression still clung to my mind. And at school or at college, the basis of knowledge I never could gulp till with whiskey combined. And as older I am growing, time's ever bestowing on Erin's potation a flavour so fine. And howe'er they may lecture on Jove and his nectar, itself is the only true liquid divine. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, 'tis the right thing for courting and fighting, there's naught so exciting as poteen, me boys. Come, guess me this riddle, what beats pipes and fiddle? What's hotter than mustard and milder than cream? What best wets your whistle? What's clearer than crystal? What's sweeter than honey and stronger than steam? What'll make the lame walk? What'll make the dumb talk? The elixir of life and philosopher's stone. And what helped Mr. Brunel to dig the Thames tunnel? Sure wasn't it poteen from Aldination? So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys. Oh Lord, 'tis no wonder if lightning and thunder weren't made from the plunder of poteen, me boys. Now ye maidens pathetic with lovers athletic, for liquid cosmetic you can't beat the drop. With the glow to your cheek it'll make your heart leap, it would quieten a stallion or cure an old cob. From the mouth you would drool, be reduced to a fool, you'd kick up your heels and you'd peel to the buff. And 'tis you'd be athletic while he'd be pathetic, if only you'd take a few drops of the stuff. So stick to the crater, the best thing in nature, for sinking your sorrows and raising your joys.
For there's nothing like whiskey to make maidens frisky. It soon separates all the men from the boys. Yes.
Myself and Robbie are immigrants to America. Have been here for some time now, and we're happy enough to be living here, and it's now our home. There are a few things we do miss about Ireland, of course, people and friends and family. Black pudding, sausages, Irish bacon, things like that, Gaelic games, and also Christmas cake. You know, we suffered great consternation when we came over to America and found out that Christmas cake was not as important a part of the culture over here as it is in Ireland. And it goes back a bit, you know, we didn't grow up among exotic fruits in Ireland, but around November or so, they would come into the country and the great ritual of making a Christmas cake would begin. And well, there were a lot of other things used in the Christmas cake too. A liberal supply of various kinds of alcohol to keep it moist, you know, just to keep it moist. And the actual cooking process was a very ritual event, you know. You had a total silence in the household because the cake might fall. And by the time the cake was made, it was, well, kept again moist, but liberal doses of alcohol. And then when it came to Christmas time, by the time it was ready to eat the cake, you were so full of eating other things that you never actually ate the cake at all, or if you did, it was only a little bit. So it was admired a lot, but rarely consumed. And then it was forgotten about, and then you discover it next July or so, covered in mold in a cupboard, and you'd throw it out, and then the whole thing would start again next November. Isn't culture a wondrous thing? And yet it seemed there was a great symbolism about this. And funny thing is, we have songs about practically everything in Ireland, but no songs at all about Christmas cake, despite its importance in ritual culture. But when I came over to America, I heard an old record of the McNulty family, a great New York-based group that used to entertain there in the 40s and 50s. They came really out of the vaudeville era in the 30s, and they were great song and dance people, and they would sing all sorts of songs, from country Irish songs to newly composed songs here in America. And I visited the last remaining member of the McNulty family, Eileen McNulty, who lives in beautiful downtown Hoboken, right beside New York there. And after a delightful day of her showing me McNulty family memorabilia, old sheet music and posters and records, she gave me a present of her brother Pete, the late Pete McNulty, singing this particular song, which is the only song about Christmas cakes I'd ever come across, called Miss Fogarty's Christmas Cake. And it was, by all accounts, a fairly lethal concoction. As I sat in me window last evening, the letterman brought it to me, a little gilt-edged invitation saying, "Gilhooly, come over to tea." Well, I knew that the Fogarty sent it, so I went just for old friendship's sake. And the first thing they gave me to tackle was a slice of Miss Fogarty's cake. And there were plums and prunes and cherries, there was citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There was nutmeg, cloves and berries, and the crustle was nailed on with glue. There were caraway seeds in abundance, should work up a fine stomach ache. I would kill a man twice after eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake. Miss Ryan, she wanted to try it, but really it wasn't no use. But we worked in it over an hour, but we couldn't get none of it loose. Till Murphy came in with a hatchet, and Kelly came in with the saw. This cake was enough, be the powers, to paralyze any man's jaw. There were plums and prunes and cherries, there were citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There was nutmeg, cloves and berries, and the crustle was nailed on with glue. There were caraway seeds in abundance, sure to work up a fine stomach ache. I would kill a man twice after eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake. Miss Fogarty, proud as a paycock, kept smiling and blinking away, till she tripped over Flanagan's brogans, and she spilt the home brew in her tay. Gilhooly, she says, "You're not eating, try a little bit more for me sake." "And oh, Mrs. Fogarty," says I, "for I've had quite enough of your cake." For there were plums and prunes and cherries, there were citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There was nutmeg, cloves and berries, and the crustle was nailed on with glue. There were caraway seeds in abundance, sure to work up a fine stomach ache. I would kill a man twice after eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake.
took me the colic. Jimmy Keane had a pain in his head, while O'Connell lay down on the sofa and he swore that he wished he was dead. Eileen Ivers went into hysterics, and there she did wriggle and shake, and everyone swore they were poisoned from eating Miss Fogarty's cake. There were plums and prunes and cherries, there were citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There was nutmeg, cloves and berries, and a crust that was nailed on with glue. There were caraway seeds in abundance, sure to work up a fine stomach ache. That would kill a man twice if they're eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake. For there were plums and prunes and cherries, there were citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There was nutmeg, cloves and berries, and a crust that was nailed on with glue. There were caraway seeds in abundance, sure to work up a fine stomach ache. That would kill a man twice if they're eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake.
Well, Eileen Ivers here is a very remarkable young musician indeed. She was born in the Bronx of Irish parents from the County Mayo and started to play the fiddle when she was about 9 years of age. And since she was 11 years of age, she's been going back to Ireland and competing in the All-Ireland competitions back there on the fiddle, where the best fiddle players in the whole of Ireland and in America and in England and anywhere else Irish music is played in the world all convene every year. And for 8 consecutive years, she went back there and won the All-Ireland Fiddle competition in different age categories, culminating in winning the Senior All-Ireland title 2 years ago. And Eileen's going to play a couple of tunes.
Thank you. I'm going to start with a slow tune, a slow jig actually called The Orphan. And the boys are going to join in, and we're going to try a reel called Skibbereen Lasses. And finish off with one of our favorite tunes, The Guns of the Magnificent Seven. It's a quirky one, you could tell.
You know, most of the songs we sing and most of the music we play has been handed down to us from generations of anonymous composers who really lived in small communities and weren't known outside those communities, and who had magnificent artistry that we appreciate many hundreds of years down the road, because the creations of these people are still very much a vital part of the Irish instrumental and vocal tradition. But you know, this tradition is still very vital and living and growing, and it has been my great privilege over the years to have met with a man and gotten to know a man who perhaps in the last few hundred years of Irish culture is the most prolific composer of new tunes in the old idiom. And I speak of Ed Reevy. Ed Reevy, the great composer, the great fiddle player, who was born in Barna Grove in County Cavan, a very beautiful part of the northern county, in 1899. And he came with his family over to Philadelphia, leaving behind a lot of relations, including 7 stonemasons on his mother's side of the family, his uncles, who were all fiddle players, and that must have been a mighty sight to see in those years. Well, he came over to Philadelphia, and he went to school and became an apprentice to the plumbing trade, and eventually became a master plumber, and lived in Philadelphia, raised a family, and they in turn raised families. And in the 30s, when the family was growing up, he told me that he used to go down into the basement of his house. He never learned to read or write music, you know, but he would sit there with the fiddle and the bow, and as he would put it himself, he said that some voice, God, would speak to him, and beautiful music would come, beautiful strains that he put into tunes, and he fashioned tunes that were learned by his fellow musicians in Philadelphia, carried back to Ireland in time, played on the radio, recorded by musicians, and suddenly scores of Ed's compositions were sweeping Ireland, and the players who played them, including myself when I was living back there, we had no idea that some of these tunes were the product of a living composer. And eventually I did end up in Philadelphia and was privileged to meet Ed, and he told me a lot of the stories about composing individual tunes. And he died in January of this year after a long and fulfilling life, and he was, after a moving funeral ceremony in a church, he was buried in Drexel Hill just outside Philadelphia. And it was a very bitterly cold day, and Seamus Egan, a brilliant young musician from Philadelphia, was supposed to play the pipes at the graveside, but you know, the weather was so cold that the pipes, the Irish uilleann pipes, wouldn't work in that weather. So he took out a whistle, and his hands were so cold he wore black gloves with the tips cut off, and he played a beautiful air of Ed's that he'd learned that morning. And it was a stirring, poignant, most extraordinary moment, not only in Irish music but in any kind of music, to hear that man's tune being played at his graveside on such a bitterly cold day, with the steam rising from the cold steel of the tin whistle. And I called up my good friend Father Michael Doyle, pastor in Camden, New Jersey, and a great social activist. He's also, as well as being a pastor, the prime mover in the low-income housing project in Camden. He's also a poet, and a poet of considerable talent and insight.
and feeling. He was at the church, but I recounted to him what had happened at the graveside. And a week later he presented me with this poem. The plumber of the hornpipes is dead. The old diviner with the hazel bow that found the Shannon source and spread its magic waters over the world. Oh no, she said, he's not dead. How could Reevy die? And who are you to say? I am the wind. I am the wind that blew the clouds in herds above the Cavan hills and Drexel too, and whispered to the oats in Barna Grove. I am the breeze that touched O'Carlin's lips with moisture on my breath till notes danced within his mind like flames behind a blind. I am the breath in Reevy's body. I would dwell within his soul. He tamed me with his reverence, but I always had to go. But I bore him sounds of sweetness. Some were glad and some were sad, and he composed 1,000 tunes about the happy times we had. Hush, I whispered. Did you see his fiddle on the altar, silent as a stone, and his body on the grave in Drexel Hill? It was stuck on the hole in a final salute, like an old finger frozen in a flute. Did you see the people in a circle, standing sadly all around when the pipes refused to play in the cold? Yes, she said, I was there. I am the breath of the earth. Every mouth is a wisp of my prayer, breathing blessings of incense on the bites of the air, because life has the edge on the ice. Listen, my friends, to the lad with the whistle, with his fingertips timid and cold. Hear the life that he brings to the old man's tune and the leaks that he brings to the eyes. And hear Reevy arise from the holes in the tin and announce on his grave, I'm alive.